Okay, can y'all answer me this? Why? Because I do content, I am considered less of a woman, or have less. I am considered to have less feelings, or so-called less of a human, or whatever the case may be. Like, explain to me why? Because I do content and I choose to post myself. This is my decision, my life. Why? Because of that, am I considered less of a human? Like, I don't understand that. Like, why am I supposed to not have feelings? Why am I supposed to not? But like, why am I supposed to not have a regular ass life or live a regular life outside of content or whatever? Because I do content. Like, why do y'all think that? Like, why? Explain to me, why do y'all think that? Like, I need valid answers. Like, I need reasonable answers.
Because outside of elementary physics problems, nothing happens in a vacuum. Right? Nothing happens in a vacuum. One decision leads and affects another. That's normal. When you engage in what society has said is kind of, it's okay, it's tolerated, but it still has a as a stigma as being reprehensible for you to participate that, and then then go back to regular society. Society for such a long time has already clearly delineated those rules and said if you engage in this sort of behavior, you can make money. You can absolutely make money. There's all sorts of things, all sorts of things you can engage in that can make you money that are lucrative, but will then set you apart from major society, the majority of others, where they will look at saying and say, even when we sin and do bad stuff over here, the majority of society, we're not doing that. And it's very difficult for you to now take that part of who you are, what you did, and then rejoin society at large while it's known what you did before. We just don't have any mechanisms for that for you. Once you walk down that path, that's the path. Once you make those decisions, those are the consequences. And no one is stopping you from making those decisions. You're allowed to do that. You're allowed to make the money. And for many it can be very lucrative, right? It can be very lucrative, but for the majority of people, they're looking at it and saying they don't think that juice is worth the squeeze because a lot of other avenues in life become closed off to you. And I think that's an easy thing for the majority of us to understand who grew up in an age when we weren't so closely joined via social media. But we'll get into that in a second. Like, comment, subscribe, hit the notification bell so you don't miss no uploads. Still trying to do two a day. Keep that discipline going. Keep that momentum alive. If listen to my voice now, or you're actually watching the video and you're subscribed yet you have not seen a video in a while, it's your notification bells. So go ahead, take a look at those. If you have that issue, just let me know in the comments, or send me a message. You can find my email in the video description. But again, with the advent of social media, and more specifically OnlyFans and platforms like that, and our lustful desire to see things that are shapely and naked, that this is becoming a more and more of an issue. You see major stars, blue movie stars talking about re-entering society and how and it being difficult, it being challenging, it being unfair. Some wanting to have their movies completely removed from the internet at all. And that's probably one of the most difficult things for people to go about doing, because the internet is the closest thing to God, and it never forgets. There's always some cache, some storage, some offsite, something is available that you made in terms of that sort of behavior that is saved somewhere, and at any time, any given time, can be sort of reviralized and put into the internet, right? Especially when you claim and clamor and trying to get it removed. But to her point, to what she's saying here, that how come you're not less human? Your opinions still matter. They just matter to a smaller amount of people, right? Those, and even those that consume, and this is the real unfair part. This is the juxtaposition here. The people that consume your content, right? They still find you reprehensible at times, right? Yes, there's some diehard fans, but the ones that consume the content are also the ones that are vocal against it. It's this silly dichotomy, and there are other factors that I think that goes into that. One of those that I've theorized for a while, there's maybe some jealousy on how long it takes me to make my money versus how little it takes you, how quickly you can make your money, and that money far eclipses mine. I want a Porsche, Turbo S, and it may take me, 4 or 5 years to do it, to get it the right way, and you can get it next month, right? You can get it next month. So there's some animosity, some real animosity, some real jealousy, specifically with men, right? Because we know we can't turn around and have that same level of success with that same level of effort. So there becomes some angst back and forth with that, when with people, with specifically women that can go and do that so easily, to what perceives to us as being easy. But that's the economic side of it. The social side of it, where now that you've done that and we witness you do something that we largely hold as intimate and largely desirous, that you do that frequently and easily and cheaply, right? Because there's no buildup, there's no tension, there's no let me get to know you, there's no see if our lives mesh, there's nothing. This is just a job for you. When you take something that we still, even if we have trouble admitting it, still see as largely intimate, when you do that and you do it easily with almost little compunction for the value behind it, it becomes hard for you now to go to back to society and says, you should still value me the same way you do someone that has not engaged in this behavior and use it to profit. People that do this and we don't really know about it can skate largely on by. You can have your 3 or 4 phase and there's no evidence of it, right? You move towns and the people in there have no connection to other ones. No one knows. No one knows. You're skating on the radar. But when you've made your bones with doing this, excuse the use of bones, when you made your money doing that, and it's publicized and people can watch it, some for free, some from a very low cost, it's hard for you now to be looked at as everyone else. You can call it unfair, you can call it distasteful, but it's part of the human psyche, part of the human nature, and one of those things that you can't really rail against to fix. You can't really scream into the void that it shouldn't be this way. It is this way. And more to the point, you probably knew this going in. You probably knew this going in, but the allure of the money made it seem like it shouldn't matter, or that allure is more important than I have that, than I have the random person's thanks and praise and awe and respect, until you want it, right? Until it starts to bar you from some of these social things that you want in life, husband and kids, right? From a stand up person, not from someone in the industry, because there tends to be that same sort of person, the same sort of character that floats in there, that they rarely sort of stay together. You want a piece of that regular life. And when men find out how many men you've been with in the type of industry they largely just say, I'm fine. There's many stories of I think I came across a woman's story where she's saying it was the worst day of her life, where she went on a date and everything was going great. She liked the guy, he liked her, and they were flowing. And then he asked her, what do you do for a living? And she says, I create content, OnlyFans. And he simply was disappointed. She said the look, the light that left his eye, and then how that dimmed, and then how he simply paid for the bill and left. And she never saw me. And she called that the worst day of her life. Is it fair? No, right? You should still be valued as a human, but this is how humanity is. Can you do something against it? Can you rail against it? Can you ask the questions? You're free to ask the questions, but in your generation, in our generation, that stigma is not going to change, right? As it becomes more and more people do it, I think the pendulum is swinging the other way, where people are looking and saying, this is not really okay, right? Not that we can stop you from doing it, but employment in some places look at that and say, no, it's not okay, right? You see teachers doing it, and then when it gets out, they're forced to resign. Right? That's happening more and more. And while the allure of the money is still there, we look at the creators that are making this, that obscene amount of money, and we're looking at them and saying, wow, it must be worth it. So when regular people do it, the average person on OnlyFans probably makes about $142 a month. Like, you showing everything, all your intimacy, and people are saying, no, thank you. We get inundated with the data from the top creators, the top creators, the ones that had a fan base before they exploded on on OnlyFans. And again, excuse the use of the word exploded. But we look at that and we think that is the thing, that is the norm. No, that's the upper echelon of creators. For the most part, people that have OnlyFans still have their own jobs, still have regular things to do in life. And then when that money or the desire to do that dries up, then you have to contend with how that industry has changed you and changed how you look at men and how you value yourself. So I think it's obvious why you're not treated the same as someone that hasn't done those things. You just have to make decisions whether or not it's worth it for you and be ready to deal with the real consequences if, especially if your stuff goes viral and you become a not a household name, but a name nonetheless that everyone recognizes. Listen, if you think I missed something, let me know down in the comments. If you see videos on your screen right now, take a look. Let me know what you think about those as well. And of course, if you listen to sound my cracking voice because now I'm sick, but I need to drink more water. You have subscribed, let me know why after you subscribed. I'll see you in the next one.